Welcome to From the Driver's Seat, the Averitt podcast for all Averitt drivers to keep up with news and information across our network. Make sure to subscribe on your preferred podcasting app to make sure you're notified as soon as every episode drops. And now, hosting from the driver's seat, Director of Driver Services, David Broyles.
Hey everybody, it's David Broyles. Got a great podcast today, and we're going to talk a little bit about relationships between fleet managers and drivers and talk about why it's important and how it works. And got some great guests today. First of all, I got Myla. Hey Myla, how are you?
I'm good. How are you, David?
I'm great. And you're a fleet manager, right?
I am.
So tell us a little bit about your Averitt experience. Where have you been at Averitt? What have you done at Averitt so far? Where are you at?
I actually started out as a customer service associate. I was there for about 2 years on days, then about a year on nights when I kind of was experiencing going back into school.
Yeah.
Then an opportunity opened up as a fleet manager, and I was lucky enough to be able to come into that department, and I've been here for just short of 2 years.
That's great.
Yeah.
So you've been over at Averitt about going on 5, I guess, what it sounds like,
Yeah,
right?
about 5 years.
About
yeah.
5 years?
Mm-hmm.
Good. And, you said you started at customer service, and Gary always says he wants everybody to start at customer service because you do learn a lot about the company when you start, right?
Yes, yes.
That's a good thing to start. So you had good background, good basics to start, right?
Yes, yeah, I did.
And Thomas, how you doing?
I better than I deserve, sir.
I heard that. So, yeah, you've been driving with Averitt for how long now?
3 years now.
3 years, and you're out of?
Gadsden, Alabama.
Gadsden, Alabama. Well, good. Yeah, obviously you drove before you came to work with Averitt, probably, right?
Yeah, I did.
How many years driving have you got?
5 years total.
5 years total?
In a semi. I did 20 years in charter buses up in New Jersey.
Oh, really?
Yes.
That's a great place to have to drive around New Jersey, right?
You learn a lot. Learn how to get around traffic anyway.
I heard that. So you've been with Averitt for
3 years.
3 years now, so good.
Yes.
And what do you like about Averitt so far?
Yeah, well, the culture is outstanding. It's just from top to bottom. I worked at another company. I don't want to name that company, but
yeah.
it was a good company, but it just didn't have your back like Averitt does, and it doesn't have the support that Averitt does. The facilities are phenomenal. The trucks are phenomenal. My favorite is the profit sharing.
Yeah, that's right.
So, and I'm one of those old school guys. I always thought if you guys are making money, I'm making money. And I truly believe that. And so I do everything I can to save money for the company and so I can make more money.
Yeah, that's what you said there is really important though. The company has to make money so that everybody that works for the company can make money. So it's important that Averitt's managed properly, right?
Yes, sir.
And when we do things, we do what we do when we're dispatching trucks and we're dispatching them home. All that stuff resolves around, hey, can we do the right things for our drivers, and can we make money at it at the same time? That's what sets us apart, I think, is doing that, right?
Yes, sir. It does by far. And you the home time, which is very important for me. The weekends, and I don't mind working longer if I have to, or a weekend if I have to.
Yeah.
To help. Yeah, I mean, I think July 4th weekend I worked just because they got in a pickle. And it's just me and my wife, so I mean, it's no big deal. And I'll do anything I can to help, and within reason, of course. But
let me ask you a question. When you first, you came to Averitt from another company driving,
yes.
But what was the one thing when you were researching Averitt? What's the one thing that stood out and said, "Hey, I want to come to work to Averitt because"?
Okay. How I got to Averitt was I was doing refrigeration. Then I went into pods with that other company.
Mm-hmm.
I went to pods, and you guys had facilities in Atlanta, and Meridian I went to a lot. And, of course, I saw the facilities.
Oh, so you came to Averitt facilities.
Yeah, to drop off pods.
Yeah.
And so then I got to talking to the drivers, and all the drivers, everyone. Not a bad thing to say. And they explained to me the culture of Averitt, and also the profit sharing, and the facilities are really important. It makes it so much easier to park,
right?
Safely. I mean, it wasn't too long ago. I picked up a truckload of catalytic converters.
Wow.
Yeah.
Nowadays, that's a lot. That's a high dollar load, right?
Yes, sir. High dollar load. And I was nervous with it, and then because that facility, it was a dead end where you picked it up at. And I'm thinking these people are eventually going to figure it out and they're going to start chasing the trucks. So I made sure I stopped probably an hour and a half earlier than I would have, but it was at a facility. So I knew I'd be safe.
Right. That makes a difference.
Yeah.
So how long has Thomas driven with you?
Oh, goodness. I would probably say well over a year and a half.
Yes, I was in flatbed at first. Yes.
Yeah, I was about to say, I've had him for quite a while now. We've
Good.
got to work together for a while. Yeah.
And what's the strong point? Why is he one of your good drivers? Why is he a good Averitt driver?
Communication is a big part for him and I. He's so good about calling in or even just sending a simple message just to make sure that I'm aware of something that's going on. And so one of the biggest things that I really appreciate about him is he is always on it to let me know if something's going on.
That's a good thing. It's always a plus. If you let your fleet manager know you're going to be late, or there's a problem with the load, or you're getting held up at a shipper or consignee, rather than assuming that they might see that. If you give that little nudge and say that's happening, that's important, right?
Absolutely, especially around Atlanta. Sometimes you get these times and you know, you just know you're going to be at least 40, 45 minutes late. So I always let her know I'm not going to make that.
Yeah.
So
never can tell, can you? Sometimes.
No.
So you've worked with Myla on dispatch now for a year and a half, let's say. What traits does she bring to the game that you think, wow, that really makes a great combination?
She's patient and listens, and not only that, and we work through it together sometimes. That's important, back and forth. She'll make a suggestion and I'll make a suggestion, and then we and it usually works out really well. So.
You ever have a bad day?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Can you tell when he's having a bad day?
Sometimes, you can kind of tell, he might have just gone through something, whether it's at a customer or maybe he ran into something on the road where another driver or something might have had just a little bit of an incident together. So you always try to take those incidents into account, and I always tell him all the time, like, I don't really ever take anything personal to heart because I know you guys go through a lot out there on the road. So I just try to listen. I just try to understand from his point of view as well. So
I think it's important you got somebody to talk to, right? You're in the truck by yourself. If you're having a bad day, if you need the question, you can pick up the phone and call her. She's there. Is that right?
That's correct. Yes.
Does that make a difference?
It makes a huge difference. The previous company I worked at, you might get somebody. You'd be lucky if you get somebody within 3 days. Sometimes.
Oh wow!
No, seriously. But they just weren't organized when it come to the driver managers and the trucks. They had so many, and one person had so many drivers. It was almost impossible for that person to actually do it.
Yeah.
So it was impossible for that person to do it. But here, that's one thing I noticed at Averitt. They give manageable loads, I think, for the driver managers. And
I think that's important. Years ago, that wasn't the case necessarily all the time because we were growing really fast. And it was hard to get fleet managers trained sometimes. So you ended up with a lot of drivers. Even back when I was a fleet manager years ago, we had those instances where you had lots and lots of drivers on your board. And I think we've come to understand that if you have a smaller number that you're helping, that you're actually able to help them more. You're actually able to call and talk to them and things. So I think that's it. What you just said. I think is really important as far as being able to build that relationship, right?
Absolutely. And what's so good is I know they have bad days too, and you could hear it in their voice. And so I try to make it as short as possible when I'm on the phone. So.
Myla's always smiling. I'll never see her when she's not smiling.
Yeah, well, I'm a pretty positive person too, to be honest with you. But we all do have bad days, and
right,
and they're frustrating. But it's important to develop a relationship with your fleet manager, so you know how they are. And
let me ask you. We'll go back to that for just a second. I know when you first came to work and you say, okay, I got to sign Myla. I don't even know who this Myla is. What goes through your head when you're first talking to that fleet manager the very first time?
Well, the first thing is I had Mike Feely, I think it was.
Right, for a flatbed,
yeah.
And Mike's retired now, but
yes, sir. Yes,
he was a great person. I worked with him for a lot of years.
He was outstanding, so I was worried after I had such a great, time with Mike that who am I going to get? What's going to happen? You know?
Yeah.
I hope I don't get one of them hotheads. You know, that you hear in the truck stop. You hear other drivers in the truck stop talking to their dispatch, and they're yelling at them. You know, and it's just like, man, I don't want nothing to do with that. So, but then I got Myla, and it took maybe a week or so before I figured out how she is, and I'm sure she figured out how I am, you know, as I work and so on. But yeah, it's really important to develop a relationship and know that she's got my back and I got her back. So
how does she earn that trust? That's because I think that's the key to it, right? You've got to trust that person that you're actually working for, in a sense. You got to trust them. But how does a fleet manager earn that trust from a driver?
Again, she listens, and it still might not come out the way I'm thinking it should come out, but she listens at least. And then we talk it through, and it works out. It's going to work out no matter what. But she listens very well. She likes to talk too.
I do. I am a little bit guilty of that. I do love to talk.
But that's good too, because as people talk, you gain more information from them.
Right.
And you learn more about them too, and their attitudes and just attitude about life that's important. This is part of your life, this job.
Right.
And you know, and it's part of my life. I'm in a truck for a week by myself, you know, and so yeah, it's really important to have a good conversation with your fleet manager every once in a while.
So that's where that trust comes from, and that respect, right? That's
yes.
the thing. Let me ask you this question from a fleet manager perspective. You've got, I don't know how many drivers you have. Let's just say you got 40. But if you have 40 drivers, you really got 40 different personalities, right?
Right. Yeah.
And that, you know, when I used to be a fleet manager, I can relate to that, because most of the drivers I had back in the day were all Texas drivers, and I'm sure some of the Texas drivers are listening to this today, going, "Yeah, I remember that." And but you know they had like 80 different personalities. But I still think we were all friends at the same time, even though I had all those drivers, but we took time to talk to them, built friendships. What do you think? How do you handle that part of it as far as earning the driver's trust on the front end?
So one of the hardest things for me when I did first come into the position was really getting a gauge on making sure I had everybody, talking to them, making sure all their concerns were addressed. It is kind of difficult when you have 35 to 40 people, and like you said, they all have different ways of communicating, and they all have different, you know, personalities maybe.
Right.
So learning how one person might want to communicate as opposed to the other. You know, some like the messaging, some like the phone calls, and there are some that like the emails too. So, you know, you just have to learn how that is. And one of the biggest things that really helped me was learning about things that are going on at home, because sometimes they might not be able to get a hold of someone at home, and you're there to be able to talk to them. So I think one of the best things for me and some of my drivers was them knowing that they had that line of communication with me, not just about work, but about things that were also going on, you know, in their lives.
And, you know, I've always said that a good fleet manager is someone that cares for the driver.
Absolutely.
Has empathy toward the driver and understands what the driver's thing is, understands what drivers are going through on the road necessarily. And I know that takes a little bit of time, but I think that's really important, don't you?
Absolutely. Again, like I said, we're at the truck stops. We hear the guys on the phone, and then hear their dispatchers just screaming at them. The guy's like, "I got to get home. My wife's sick," you know, or whatever. And the dispatcher's just screaming at him. You know, it's just like, you don't want to work like that.
Right.
And again, getting to know your personal life too, and Myla knows it's just me and my wife, so I could work a little longer than other guys probably.
Yeah.
Because, you know, I'm older too. I'm not a spring chicken anymore, and so I can work longer if she needs and stuff like that.
Right.
So there's give and take and all that. And
yeah, I think that's really important that you know, drivers understand. Hey, sometimes things are out of your control and things are going to but when that happens, I think it's important that, for instance, if you're not going to get home till Saturday, if the freight's just not going to make, you know, first thing Myla needs to do is call you, right? And she does that, right?
And absolutely. And she really doesn't have to call me. I'm not it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out you're not going to make it home Friday.
But you like that phone call, right?
Yeah. It's nice. Just let it know. Yeah, I know. I already know it's going to be late. I mean, you're picking up 5 o'clock Friday afternoon in Mississippi, and you're trying to get to Alabama. You're not going to make it. So.
Not going to make it hardly. That's right.
One of the things I learned is also, no matter if it's the good news or bad news, always bring it to them, because
Absolutely.
if you don't, it kind of, I think, infringes on the relationship you might have with them, because they're thinking you're hiding something.
That's right.
And you just don't want to communicate everything. So I try to tell them whether it's bad or good.
Absolutely. So. I think the whole thing comes down to honesty. Mm-hmm. It really comes down to it. In order to trust somebody, you got to think in your mind, well, that's an honest person, and the way you prove that is what you just said.
Absolutely.
Good news, bad news, it makes no difference. I'm going to pick up the phone. I'm going to call that person. It's going to impact immediately and tell them what's going on, because it's not going to change by ignoring it, right?
Right. It won't go away.
It won't go away. It's just going to get worse, right?
Yeah.
No, and that's, you just got to take it sometimes, and you know it.
Yeah. Mm. But I think the difference is you also probably understand that she's going to take care of you downstream too. The favors go both ways, right?
Yeah, I notice that sometimes. I love to go to Texas, so it seems like whenever I do a favor for the company, and then next thing I know, I'm rolling to Texas.
Yeah, so. That's a Texas.
So.
That's always fun, I like that camaraderie that we have. I think that's an important part of Averitt Express. I think it's important, that relationship between the driver and the fleet manager. And, we keep working on that. And I think that's the key to making Averitt grow. I think that's the key to building the glue that's going to hold everything together, right? I mean, that's part of it.
It is. And the other drivers are fantastic, too. I have to be honest. You give them kudos, too. I mean, there's times you're going somewhere and you're looking on a satellite and you're like, how in the world you get into that place?
Yeah.
And you run into another driver. Hey, you ever been there? And they're like, oh, yeah. And then they give you, nobody's saying, just leave me alone, or, they all get involved. They'll do anything. They'll tell you what you need to know to get in there, and where to check in at, because some of these places have 5 places to check in at. Things like that. And I always try to do my research before I ever even call Myla, too, before to understand what I'm looking at. I'm looking at the facility. I'm looking at the reviews that you read. I mean, of course, you take reviews with a grain of salt, because everybody has a bad day. And usually most of the reviews are people that are mad. But some of the reviews are good. They tell you, like overnight parking, they're cool. Right. They got restrooms, which is important, because a lot of facilities don't have restrooms, so you need to stop before you get there. Right. And things like that. And other drivers help out with that also when you run into them in the truck stops or facilities.
Well, that's the thing I think that sets Averitt apart amongst all companies, pretty much. You have a lot of lines of communication that you can use to ask questions. There's a lot of ways. There's more than one way to ask questions at Averitt Express, right?
Yes, sir. Absolutely. You can, like you said, pick up the phone, send a message. Now we have the tablet. You can get on with that. I don't even remember what it's called now, but there's another button there. You can get somebody else to help you out. So again, we're going through the tablet thing right now, and there's some good things, some bad things. We're working through all that too, and do that through Myla also.
Yeah. We're basically essentially learning it as we go together. Yeah. So it's been kind of nice to see what they see on their side, because now we're able to kind of work together, and I can see what he sees. So that's been a really big tool that's helped us a lot too.
Well, good.
Yeah, we're learning, things you'd like to see on there and stuff like that. I usually send that in. So. Yeah.
Well, good. All right. Well, hey, I appreciate y'all's time in today. Thank you so much for coming in. We look forward to seeing you out in the future, and obviously we're looking at growing in 2025. That's going to be the goal. People Like You program is going to be huge for that. Making the right kind of referrals, and so we're going to be looking for help from you, and from other folks to make referrals for us and help us bring new drivers in and bring quality drivers like yourself in. I think the referral program's a great program, don't you?
Yeah, I do, and I know some drivers and they ask me they want to come to Averitt, and I'm like, no, you don't want to be.
That's not a People Like You program.
No, they're not.
Yeah, but if they're not like you might not want them, right?
No, to be honest with you, I know them. They go job to job, those kind of people, and it's just, There's no loyalty whatsoever, and you just know it. They'll be here for like a year and then leave.
Right.
And you don't want those kind of people.
We want the folks that's going to come here and stay and retire with us, right?
And that's what I'm doing. So
we appreciate that. We look forward not to the day you're going to retire. We look forward to a lot of years left with us.
Sir. Yes, sir.
And Myla obviously has a lot more years than you and I.
Yeah, absolutely.
She's just a little younger than us, so she's just getting started in her Averitt career.
Yeah.
She's real young in that, but yeah, you got a long ways to go, and you're doing very well.
Thank you.
So
Yes, she is.
Obviously, we're looking forward to that. Thank y'all. Appreciate you. Myla, any last words for our drivers?
We just really appreciate everything you guys do, and just, the communication. Just always know we're here, and we're going to help you all that we can.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thomas, any last words for everybody?
Yeah. Just think how blessed you are to have such good support in this company, and because, like I said, I was at another company, and many other drivers have been, but a lot of drivers have been here from the get-go.
Right.
And they don't realize how blessed they are. But it's a fantastic company, and I'm happy to be here, and I look forward to many years yet. So.
Well, Thomas, we appreciate it. Thank y'all for both being here and sharing with us and letting us know a little bit about what insights are about fleet manager and driver relationships and how important they are.
Thank you.
Thank y'all. Appreciate everybody. Look for you out on the road. Y'all have a great day. Appreciate you.